Living with long COVID can feel like a constant balancing act, pushing yourself to do just a little bit more, but then also not too much because you are scared of crashing. But what if you could predict setbacks before they happen? Now, I know this sounds too good to be true, but that's exactly what my guest today has been doing, using simple data from wearables like fitness trackers. And he's here to share exactly how he's been doing this. If you're new here, welcome. I'm Raelan, and I share a ton of inspiring recovery stories from people who've overcome conditions like ME/CFS and long COVID. And many of these interviews that you see and hear right here are currently contributing to a research study at Goldsmiths University of London, exploring how people recover. So we are really making a difference here. Today, I'm thrilled to talk with Dave Acklam over in Derby, England. Dave's journey with long COVID has been challenging, dealing with POTS, MCAS, and some unusual low oxygen levels. But by using insights from wearables like heart rate monitors, Dave has been able to collaborate better with his doctors and make better decisions day to day about his recovery. He is here to share his valuable insights and offer tips, and I can't wait to learn more about how using data and being proactive can help you on your path to healing. So let's dive in. Dave, amazing to have you here today. Thank you for doing this.
That's all right.
So tell us about your long COVID journey.
Well, I got COVID 2 years ago, and I had it really mild. I was only ill for a day, but I was positive for 2 weeks. And after that, it was just like recovering back from a normal illness. After about 3 or 4 months, I felt fully recovered. But then after 6 months, I went on holiday, did too much, had a complete relapse, new symptoms, worse symptoms, not recovering. And that's really when my real long COVID journey began. And in fact, now I'm a lot better, but I'm not fully recovered. But I think it was on your channel, 3 times in a week, people saying they had a fear of doing activity. And I don't have that because I'm using information from wearables like heart rate monitors that tell me how I am. And so I don't have that fear of doing anything because they tell me when I'm doing too much and when to rest. So that's why I wanted to share what I'm doing in case it's helpful for other people. The real journey began, right? So my symptoms were mostly fatigue, brain fog, and skin issues. And I did not have things like heart issues or breathlessness or pain or gut issues. It was just that fatigue, brain fog, and skin issues. So I could operate or function for about an hour a day, 4 or 5 days a week. So most of the time lying down. But I went to my GP and she was open, but she didn't know what to do. Suggested I did my own research, starting off with charities and things like that. So I quickly came across Jez Medinger's YouTube channel and used that. And that was a great source of information. And it led me to think that I had a disrupted nervous system. So things like POTS or muscle activation syndrome. And I also had low oxygen levels. And so I went to my GP with those, and then she did further tests. And they all came back clear. And she also put me into a long COVID clinic. And they looked at both my information and the information come back from what the doctor had done. And they diagnosed me with POTS, MCAS, which was a surprise for me because I thought I would have one or the other. I didn't realise you could have more than one dysautonomia type condition. And the low oxygen levels, they don't understand. And so I'm still going through tests for those. But my lungs are fine, breathing's fine. So seeing what transpires on that.
So, Dave, you talked about how using data has helped you a lot to prevent symptom flares and relapses. So what does that look like? How are you doing that?
So how it's helped me with the research I've been doing, the data has helped me kind of join the dots up. So work out which bits of possible symptoms apply to me and which bits don't apply to me. And I also find it easy because I just look at my watch or a wearable or a screen and it tells me what's going on inside me without me having to feel it. Because what I've found is that the numbers change before I feel it. And once I feel it, it's too late, I'm crashing. That was That was a bit pants, but that's my answer.
So what wearable devices or what things specifically are you using?
So the main one I'm using now is on my wrist. That's a Garmin Forerunner 965. It's like a running watch, a smart watch, an activity tracker. I also have this, which is another heart rate monitor, which is the one I had originally. And it's just a running watch, because I used to do lots of running and cycling pre-COVID. These both work off the wrist for the heart rate bit. Then I also have third heart rate monitor, which is a heart rate monitor, which I saw used on the Jez Medinger channel. This comes with this actually clips on your ear, and it comes with an app, which is good because it's got a journal section. And so this heart rate monitor goes into a lot more detail than the sports-based ones. So kind of every second you can see what's happening to your heart rate, and it's on the screen. So when I'm doing a test, I can see exactly what's happening to my heart rate. And then my fourth one is just a normal pulse oximeter that you put on your finger for your oxygen levels. And the way that I use them is 4 different ways. The first one is daily management. So how am I at the start of the day? The measures that I use, the top 3 for me are heart rate, body battery, and stress. And they're what I've got on my watch at the moment. So heart rate is what your heart doing. Body battery is how much energy it thinks that you have. Have you heard of the spoons theory, where you've got so many spoons a day and you use 3 for having a shower and 4 for doing the washing up? Well, this is basically just an electronic version of that. And so, like, at the moment, I've got a body battery of 36, which is a bit lower than where I would like to be at this time of the day, because I used to just make sure I didn't run out during the day. So try to keep it at 10%. But then one of your guests said have a reserve of energy so that you can help your body heal. So I now target trying to have 30% by the end of the day. I start the day with like about 70%, but it could be anywhere from 50% to 80%. So if it's a 50% day, then I know I've really got to kind of rest or look after myself. But if it's a 70% day, then yeah, that's fairly normal. And that just lets me know how I am. And then when I'm doing things, like going for a walk, just going shopping, heart rate is what I use to tell me how I am. In fact, this morning, heart rate saved me, because normally when I go for a walk, my heart rate is between 85 and 100 beats per minute. And I went for a walk this morning and it was between 52 and 55. So way, way, way too low. And when that's happened before, that's a warning sign that I need to just turn around, go home and rest. I don't know why it goes low, but sometimes, I mean, that's like my sleeping heart rate. That's my resting heart rate. So why does that? I don't know. And sometimes it can even go as the 40s below my resting heart rate, which is that does get scary. But in myself, I can't tell. And then stress is what I use when I'm resting. Resting, my stress should be below 25. But if it is in the 40s or 50s, again, that tells me I need to keep resting. I can't feel it, but that's the signal that it's telling me. And just going back to heart rate, if I'm doing something like on a Friday, I'll go and help my friend on his farm if I'm up to it. And if my heart rate reaches 130, that's my signal that I've done enough and I need to stop. Because 130 is kind of my slow running pace, or a little bit below that. So, standing there or walking across a field, there's no way it should be 130. So that tells me I've done too much. That's when I need to rest and stop.
And by doing this and watching these, you've been able to prevent bigger symptoms coming on or energy crashes.
Absolutely, yeah. And
that is incredible.
And another good example, actually, is I used to do lots of cycling. And whilst at the moment I do feel I'm broken, there's bits of me that desperately want to go cycling every now and then. And a year ago, I could not resist anymore. So I went out on a bike ride and kept my heart rate really low, and it worked a treat. And it felt so good. I thought, I've cracked it. I found something I can do. 2 weeks later, I thought, I'm well enough. I'll go on another bike ride, exactly the same bike ride. Towards the end, I lost control of my heart rate. it was just going all over the place. And when I got back, I crashed for a week. So that made me not going back right for months. I kind of, that itch was scratched. And so 4 months ago, I wanted to go on another bike ride. So I did, made sure I was well enough, went on the bike ride. Everything went perfectly, heart rate in control, felt great the next day. Went for a walk, and within 5 minutes, my heart rate was in the 100. So I quickly turned around and went home. By the time I got home, my heart rate was in the 120s. And again, I couldn't feel it. They were the warning signals that I had done too much. I need to rest. I felt fine in myself, but that was the warning signal. And it actually took 2 weeks before all my numbers were back to normal. So I just didn't appreciate that the recovery period from an easy bike ride is so long. And I actually suspect that's why I had the crash a year ago, because of that huge recovery period that you need. I've now realized that I need.
Do you ever find that there's a discrepancy between what the data is telling you and your actual experience? I ask because I've been wearing the Oura Ring, which, as I'm sure you know, is just another type of wearable device. And I've people watching the videos for a long time probably seen I've been wearing it for a couple of years, and I love it. And it gives you so much data about your body temperature, how you slept, your deep sleep, your blood oxygen, your heart rate variability, your stress levels throughout the day, how you're recuperating from things, and all of that. And almost always it's bang on. And it's really nice. I find it really validating, because some mornings I'll get up and it'll give me a low readiness score. And I think, yeah, I'm feeling really worn out. And it'll say, oh, your body temperature didn't drop for some reason last night. You didn't get much restorative sleep. Maybe take it easy today. But then some days, every once in a while, it'll give me this amazing score telling me that I'm ready to take on the world. And I'm like, yeah, I don't think that's right. I just wonder, in your experience, every once in a while, is there, because I find I'd say at least 9 times right.
Every now and then, yeah, 1 day a month, but generally it's right. And because I've got a variety of metrics, like other metrics are things like, I wake up in the morning, I'll check my oxygen levels, as well as my heart rate, as well as my stress. Just quickly whiz down them, and like my sleep score, what was my sleep look like last night, and how does it all just kind of, what's the overall picture? But yeah, I agree. Every now and then there's a day that kind of like you feel you did not have refreshing sleep, and it says your sleep was fantastic, and you think that doesn't add up. But
yeah. And I think you're right. It's probably about once a month for me as well. I think it's an important call out, because they're amazing tools and they can help you so much. But at the end of the day, always trust your own, your judgment and your intuition. So don't override, how you're feeling just because the device tells you to. But yeah, overall, it sounds like this has been absolutely incredible for you. And I'll make sure that we have all these linked in the description. I'll get the links from you if you don't mind, and I can link the Oura Ring too. I think I have with a discount, because I know it's a lot for people who aren't familiar with these things, like, there are all these devices. So yeah, people listening, watching, you can just click through those and take a look and see if anything looks interesting to you.
I know that in the past you said that your recovery is not steady, it's ups and downs. And that's what shows in my numbers. So I put them in Excel and just track them, and they go up and down, but it's a gradual, steady up, which is good. And I also, particularly early on, used them for what I call or think was like proactive learning. Like when I was doing my research, and I saw on Jess Medinger's channel about POTS, which is when you're lying down and then you stand up and your heart rate goes above 30. And even though I wasn't feeling anything in my heart, I did it just because I had a heart rate monitor. Yeah, I passed the threshold. So I did loads more lie down stand tests, which is why I got this thing that clips on your ear. And that was just like, wow. So what I did with the app, I could get screenshots. So that's what I emailed to my doctor. That was amazing. Instead of just feeling rubbish, I had screenshots of what might be causing feeling rubbish. Sent that to my doctor, and she then put me forward for a 24-hour ECG, where you get the things that stick on your heart. And the results of that came through about the same time I was in the long COVID clinic. But rather than when I had that on for 24 hours, that was when I did lots of back fitting experiments. So I'd do lie down, stand up tests. to demonstrate what my heart rate is doing. And then I would go for a walk and I would demonstrate that my heart rate walking was lower than when I'm just standing still, which is like totally bizarre, but that's what was happening.
Wow.
And so when the long COVID clinic saw that, that's what enabled them to diagnose me with POTS, even though we never actually met face to face. It was the data from because the official ECG result came back as everything's okay. Because I think what they do is just look at how your heart is working, not the heart rate. Anyway, that got me diagnosed with POTS, which was great. Another thing which that kind of exploratory side was discovery of low oxygen levels. Again, I kept hearing of people being breathless, and I wasn't breathless. But if I did too much and my heart rate reached 130 and I didn't stop, I would get like an acidic taste in my mouth. That was my last warning signal to stop. And I just wondered if it was anything to do with a buildup of carbon dioxide. Probably nothing to do with that. So I bought my little measurement. And the first afternoon I took a measurement, it said, call an ambulance. It was like, what? I'm just like sitting like this. And he said,
My goodness.
because my oxygen level was like 90%, which is call an ambulance or get to hospital in the UK. And I would say, so what I did then was I went and bought another one just to see if the meter was not working properly. Yeah, same result. And so all sorts of weird messaging, weird readings. So it's lower when I'm lying down, and then when I stand up, it raises up by 2 percentage points, which can take me from call an ambulance to call your doctor. Or I would say 50% of the time, it is in the range of call your doctor for help or advice. 25% it's I'm okay, and 25% it's call an ambulance or get to hospital. Even though I can just like this. Yeah, so what I can do is deep belly breathing. So if I ever feel I'm going to be in trouble, not that I ever have felt in trouble, I know I can just belly breathe, and that will raise my oxygen levels up into the you're okay level. But I can't maintain that, but I know that's my little backup. I was going to say something else, but I can't remember what it was. Actually, yes. I found online something called the Bolt breathing test, which is from a YouTube channel called Oxygen Advantage. And that's where you hold your breath and time yourself to when you kind of need to breathe. A healthy level is like 30, 40 seconds, and I'm 10 seconds. So again, that tells me that there's something about my oxygen levels that is not quite right. But my oxygen meter, that just tells me how I am and whether I should take an easy day or I'm okay to go and do things. So another area I use the data for is a bit like reactive learning. So I'll look at the numbers, and if anything stands out as being particularly strange, I will look and see how it can help me. The one that stands out to me is, and this sounds really bizarre, every Friday night my sleep was awful. And that led me to discovering histamine intolerance. The sleep score that I got from my Garmin, I didn't have good sleep, but Friday nights were particularly bad. And Friday was when if I was well enough, I'd go and help a friend on his farm. So I've kind of assumed that was the physical activity and social interaction that was tiring me out and giving me poor night's sleep. So I was happy to put up with that because it's good for me to get out and meet people and do things. But then it happened one week when I didn't go, but I was well enough, but he wasn't around for some reason, so I didn't go. But I still had an absolutely appalling sleep on Friday night. So I then looked into it, and my stress levels were really high up to about 3 or 4 in the morning. On this particular Friday, they started after my evening meal, whereas previous Fridays, they started after lunchtime. And so I thought, well, could it be that evening meal that's triggering it? And could it be I'm eating too much? Because after the day on the farm or the morning on the farm, or the hour on the farm, or the 20 minutes on the farm, if I had to go home early, I'd have pizza and beer, just treat myself. That's one night of the week that I didn't eat healthily. So I figured, could I be eating too much? So then I cut back, and it's my volumes, the amount I ate, it still triggered an appalling night's sleep. And so one day I was on the farm, morning was great, but everything triggered from lunchtime, because if I'd survived to lunchtime, I get burger and a beer in the pub. And I was aware of histamine intolerance, and I had cut out high histamine items, but it just made me think, could it be histamines that are doing it? And so I did one of my favourite tests, which was what I called pork pie test, which was cured meats are high in histamines. So I thought, if I eat pork pie, then that's not high volume, but if I react, then that's the signal that histamines are the issues. I ate a pork pie, and yeah, my stress levels just went off the chart for a long time. So that was when I was just joining the long COVID clinic. So I discussed with them going on a low histamine diet. So I tried that for a week, and yeah, between about weeks 2 and 3, then it's like a cloud had lifted. It was amazing. I felt so good. And how I felt in myself changed from a scale of rubbishness, how rubbish I felt, to a scale of how good I felt. And so I just kept on the low histamine diet ever since. I can't do any more kind of activity-wise, but in myself, I just feel a whole lot better. And it's been amazing.
That is
So-
amazing, Dave, that you've been able to figure that out. And I love that you brought this up for a number of reasons. One of them, a selfish one, especially the pork pie test, because I noticed too with my Oura Ring, if I have sugar, white flour, or alcohol in the evening, I have poor quality sleep. So not only does it help you identify these things that are impacting how you feel, I find it serves as a sort of an accountability partner, because sometimes I think we just want to put our head in the sand and pretend that our bad habits aren't impacting us, but there's no way, because it shows me every single time. And Jeffrey, my husband, likes to eat a lot of cured meats and processed meats, and he has an Oura Ring too. So now I'm going to invite him to look at the patterns on the days he eats those things versus not.
Yeah,
trying to find ways.
I love kind of strong cheddar, and I have a craving for cheddar. So I thought, you know what? I'll just eat a cheese sandwich. And yeah, it was a useful reminder that eating a cheese sandwich sends the stress level off the chart.
Yeah, I start imagining those poor scores the next day, and I think, is it worth it? How badly do I want this right now?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I've got one more thing to go back to on the POTS discovery, which was wearing compression gear. So when I was in the long COVID clinic and discussing, and they diagnosed me with POTS, what they said to do was add salt to my diet and wear compression. And I had already got a pair of compression leggings for when I'm doing long distance running, and hopefully that was going to help fix my legs when my legs are all tired out from long runs. And I had tried them, and what I was doing was a lie down stand up test, both with leggings and without leggings, to see what effect that would have. And it made no difference whatsoever, unfortunately. But the long COVID clinic doctor asked me to try again. So I thought, doctor's asked me to try it. I'll try it again. Lie down, stand up test, made no difference. So I thought, nah, I'll stick with it for a month. So I went and bought a second pair, then I have one in the wash and wear one. And what I discovered was I had lost weight since I had bought them. So they were too big. So I had to buy a size smaller. And when I bought a size smaller, they worked. That was amazing. The leggings, they reduced my heart rate by about 10 to 15 beats per minute from the lying down, standing up. And then I bought some arm compression, and they reduced it by a further 5 to 10 beats per minute. And then I went and did some real world tests. So I went and mowed the lawn. And previously, when I mowed the lawn, the heart rate would reach 130 when I'd done about half. So then I would have to stop for a rest and maybe finish it off the next day. But this time, mowed the lawn, and it reached about 110. So the first time in a year, I mowed the lawn all in one go. Then something I've tried to do once or twice a month, I've tried to go for a 30-minute jog just to keep in touch with the old me and keep the muscle memory up. And what I will do on that is, if my heart rate gets to 160, then that's my signal to stop completely and walk, or just wait until it dies down. And again, my heart rate did not reach 160 and settled at 145, 150, which is too high for what I'm doing. But again, first time in a year I could go for a jog and not have to stop. It was just amazing. Since then, I've worn compression and I've got that confidence that it's working.
It's amazing. Wow, what a dramatic change.
Yeah.
Another great
Thanks for
thing you figured out there. So for people who are completely unfamiliar with this sort of way of approaching things, have never used any of these advices, what are some of your top tips for people in using data this way?
I think the first one is kind of information that's helping me make decisions rather than controlling what I do. So like, whilst I've set that limit at 130, which works for me, if I reach 130 and I'm near the end of something, I'll just finish it off. I won't kind of have a hard stop. And I also, again, for me, I need that knowledge of what's up with me so that I know where the data fits. So how to use my heart rate when I'm going for a walk, that kind of stuff. And each time I come up with new information, I will always ask myself, so what? How is it helping me? How is that new information helping me understand what's going on, or helping me understand what I need to do to recover? And if I don't know how it's helping me recover, then that's fine. I'll just park it. An example of kind of what I've parked because I don't understand is I saw on Jazz Meddinger's channel someone who their body was very acidic, and they tested. You get the wee test where you wee in a cup, put a stick in, and you see what pH it is. I did that, and my wee is acidic, but how that fits in the picture, I don't know. So I'm just parking that until I do understand. Another thing I would recommend is repeatability. So you might do an experiment and come up with a finding. Can you repeat that finding? And if you can, great. If you can't, that's still telling you something. An example for me of that is when I was doing my lie down, stand up test, I couldn't always hit the threshold for POTS. Sometimes I could, sometimes I couldn't. It was always above normal, never quite that plus 30 threshold. And what I figured out from that is, you have your 3 different nervous system states: rest and digest, fight and flight, and then shut down. I think that whether I hit the POTS threshold or not depended on what nervous system state I was in. So when I was well rested, I would not hit the POTS threshold. But when I was in shutdown, I could just, hit it within 30 seconds of standing up. I'd be plus 13, and it would stay there until I lay down again. And fight or flight was somewhere in the middle. And I tended to think of fight or flight as more fragile. I was restful or fragile or in shutdown. And what I found was that if my numbers were good and I felt good, then I am in rest and digest. If I feel good, but my numbers say I'm not well, then that tells me I'm in fragile / fight or flight on the way to shutdown. If my numbers are bad and I feel bad, then I'm in shutdown. And that, again, is a really helpful thing, because what I also tried to do was come up with an experiment to be able to demonstrate my POTS threshold when I went to see my GP. So there's no point going to the doctor and not being able to demonstrate what's going on. So what I do now, if I'm going to the doctor, is get myself into fight or flight mode so that I know any symptoms I've got, I can demonstrate very easily. And that's a top tip I keep reminding myself. Another thing that was useful, again, is another POTS experiment and oxygen levels, is have a control group. Have a healthy person that you can test these things on. So my poor friend who owns a farm, when I go and see him, often we've got an experiment to do today. So it started off being, right, I need to lie down on the floor. I'm going to plug you up to gadgets and then just stand up and see what your heart rate does or what your oxygen levels do. And then we'll do me and just see what happens between the two, because we're the same age, same level of fitness. And that's good. And actually, I did it on someone else. And on the heart math device, which gives you much greater granularity on what your heart rate is doing every second. The healthy person has a kind of a curve. It goes like that, a nice curve, whereas mine was very much it's jagged. And I did this person who was highly stressed at the time, lots of things to get done by a certain time, did it on them, and their heart rate, whilst the lie down to stand up was a healthy person, only raised up by 10 beats per minute. Their second by second signal was very jagged, just like mine. And that told me that I must be showing lots of stress in my heart. That was a useful thing to learn. And lastly, accuracy of devices. People always ask me, are they accurate? And to be honest, I don't care if they help me. As long as they're reliable, then, and they help me, I'll take that.
Yeah, that's fair. So I wonder, is it just data that's helping you on your recovery journey, or is there anything else that you're using or doing that's been helpful?
Yeah, other things. So, as I've mentioned a few times, having that understanding of what is within long COVID, because again, Jazz Medding, one of the first things I learned from him I took away was long COVID is not a disease in its own right. It's like an umbrella term for lots of sub-conditions. So learning what are those sub-conditions. I've been using an app that's been helping me, things like breathing exercises. I do yoga nidra. So the stress metric on my watch, that was great in teaching me that trying to relax my brain. Breathing exercises, yoga nidra is good. Being kind to myself. Because I know so early on, today is not a good day to do something, I need to cancel or cut it short. That can be really tough. So being kind to yourself when you've got to change your plans and you really don't want to, but the numbers say you're not well. Being kind to myself is so helpful.
I think almost every person I've interviewed has said some version of that. Definitely, you're not alone in that. And it's something that many of us are finding is oddly new, that we didn't realize how hard we'd been on ourselves in our life and what that inner voice has been saying. So yeah, I love that you brought that. Well, thank you so much, Dave. This has been incredible. I really appreciate your time. I'm thinking for people watching, I'm going to link for you a video that I did a while back, thinking about using data to help you recover. This is a way to use your data about your thoughts for your recovery. It's an AI journal called Rosebud. And I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's really quite amazing. So if you use it enough, it can start to notice patterns in your activity and make connections that you may not see. So if this sort of approach to recovery is interesting, you can look at not just what's going on in your body, but also use data from your thoughts as well. So yeah, absolutely incredible. Really appreciate your time. You've shared such valuable things. I know everyone's going to appreciate hearing it. And thanks to those of you watching, and hope to see you in this next video with Rosebud. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you. Pleasure.